Hello and welcome to another fabulous podcast in the series You Matter, courtesy of Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. We're speaking about mental health, we're speaking about well-being, and we're speaking about some fabulous initiatives that Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts have for their colleagues and their employees, wherever they may be, all under the Cinnamon brand. We've obviously spoken about well-being, we've spoken about HR initiatives that Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts have for their colleagues. Now we're moving on to something very interesting, a term that's obviously been trending wherever you go. Today we're going to be talking to two individuals, of course, representing the Cinnamon brand, and of course they consider themselves Gen Zs working for the Cinnamon brand. So on the show today we have Anuki Keenawinna, Assistant Manager Brand Marketing, and Praveen Wickramasinghe, Senior Executive Quality Assurance. Anuki, Praveen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much for being a part of the podcast series You Matter. Let's start off with the first question that we actually have for you in terms of Gen Zs, is what we're really talking about. Now, Anuki, if I may to start with you, why did you choose to join an established and progressive company like John Keells, and especially with Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts?
So I was fresh out of uni and I was trying to figure out where exactly I would fit in. And when I was looking for opportunities, I came across the John Keells Management Trainee Program, and I was fortunate enough to get in. And even before I decided to apply, I knew that I wanted to get into JKH because it is a well-established brand that I've heard of right throughout my life, right? And I knew what John Keells had to offer from a customer point of view, because I realized that I was a loyal customer to brands like Elephant House and even Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. And I wanted to know what sort of effort and back-end work really goes into offering that sort of service quality and products that are, up there. And I was fortunate enough to experience what different industries like consumer foods, hospitality, insurance, and all of that was like after I joined. And I think I made the right choice, because once you join in and you get the employee or colleague point of view of it, you realize that this really is more than just a workplace. Because I know in a lot of companies they say open door policy, right? But here, it's not just a buzzword or phrase that's thrown around. We actually can speak to anyone from any industry within the group. It doesn't matter if you've settled down with Cinnamon or, consumer foods or insurance. It doesn't matter. You can just speak to anybody from any industry and get insights on things. And I think I made the right choice by joining JKH because of that sort of exposure that you get. And I knew that I would be able to also gain the experience I need in terms of a global audience,
right?
Because when it comes to Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, we have hotels in the Maldives as well, right? And we're always looking to expand and things like that. So that was actually the reason.
Praveen, now if we turn to you, what makes Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts a great place for young professionals to actually work at?
Of course, so when I'm listening to Anuki's story also, I still can remember the day that I stepped into Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts head office. So it is actually just as Anuki said, me also, this is my very first workplace, and I got to know about this whole corporate life. I actually started my corporate life with Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. So in this journey of, I think it's 1.5 years of time, where I started as an intern and now I'm here as a senior executive, where this journey started in a way I totally see the difference in me, because just as Anuki said, I think the expectations of us as very young and something very different. We all were very curious to know what is this whole corporate life and what is it all about. Coming here with zero expectations, zero knowledge about what it is, and after that meeting the best of Sri Lanka, because we say we give the best of Sri Lanka to the world, and at the same time we receive the best of Sri Lanka as well, from in terms of the expertise here, the leaders and everyone, the values, each and every word, each and every personality that we meet at John Keells and at the same time Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. I believe that created a huge impact in me, and the person who came like 1.5 years ago and the person who I am right now, when I look at these two personalities, I see a huge difference, which I really feel proud of. I don't know how to express it in words, but I really feel proud of it.
Well, you look it. For sure. There's so much enthusiasm, as a matter of fact.
Like, of course, it's really a beautiful journey.
Right.
And looking forward in future also the same. And I believe that it is the same at Cinnamon.
Yes. Okay, so let me ask the both of you, of course, that we're representing this Gen Z culture at JKH. I mean, there's a fair amount of Gen Zs under the umbrella of JKH and, of course, at Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. How is the Gen Z culture, or how is Gen Z changing the culture at JKH and Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts? Let me start from you, Praveen, firstly.
Yeah, so when it comes to this Gen Z, I think I'm also a part of Gen Z, this generation, where when we are stepping into the corporate world and what we expect from the corporate world is actually to be, now when it comes to ourselves, I think the generation is moving towards living a purpose-driven life with respect, most importantly, and at the same time, the expectations of us is to be very transparent, and at the same time, like, living a life which is very meaningful. And I think that is the young blood, and that is something that is being infused to our DNA. I don't know how it has happened, but now that Gen Z is somewhat like that. And when we come to the corporate world also, that is the DNA that we are bringing here. So there, I believe, companies like John Keel, Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, we actually see that thing in reality. And the company has also, our seniors to every leader, every personality has been able to bring that culture and bring that environment to us as well. Because when I say like the purpose-driven life and the value-driven life, we expect our effort being valued in the corporate world. And maybe like, even though I still can remember the very first decision that I made for the project that I was handling, and it might be not the best decision with my experience, my little knowledge and my little skill set, but still I can remember how the leaders valued that idea and made it change constructively, which is like amazing. I have no words to explain, because it's always that learning culture that we had, and they valued what we believe, and they always were there to shape it, mold it to the next version. So it is something that I really feel happy about and proud of when talking about John Keel's and Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, and at the same time, all our business units. So yeah, and I believe that is one big expectation when it comes to that value-driven lifestyle, when it comes to Gen Zs, and at the same time, the transparency, this open culture that we have, the hidden agendas or this corporate secrecy that those so-called terms which were there before is no longer available. I think it's a perfect fit, this corporate, and at the same time, I believe all the corporations, they are like changing themselves fit to the Gen Zs and the generations coming, because obviously that will be the future. This generation thing is obviously will come, and after a couple of times, this gen will come to the leadership of the corporates. So they are like transforming themselves. Obviously, it's a transformative journey. I think John Keel's is a prime example for that.
Anuki, if I'm to turn to you, how is your generation pushing for inclusivity and work-life balance? Especially, I think it really started with Gen Zs. During our time, there was nothing called work-life balance. It was either work or life, you know. Sometimes your work got messed up because of your life and vice versa. But now it's a very important factor in the culture, in a corporate culture, that work-life balance. How's your generation actually pushing for that?
So I think that we as a generation, the majority at least, we're very open when it comes to speaking about things that are traditionally considered taboo, and there's a bit of stigma around it.
Right.
So even when it comes to things like, balance, it's all about balance, right? Balancing your work life and your personal life. I think we have sort of taken this stand as a generation to be very real.
Right.
And I don't know if that has come from us being very active on social media and just, putting all our thoughts out there, but I think just being very raw and real and telling everybody about, like, yes, I had a tough day at work today, so once I got home, I just didn't want to do anything. Just being open and having those conversations, not just with your friends and people who are outside of this corporate environment, but having those conversations internally, even with your superiors or anybody from the leadership. We've, I think, found the courage somewhere, somehow, to bring those things up. And there are so many things that can just be swept under the carpet. But I think as a generation, we have sort of, spoken about things that a lot of generations before us haven't really spoken about.
Right.
And even in terms of inclusion and diversity and all of that, as a generation, I think we see beyond race and religion and all of that, and we understand that we are all human and people at the end of the day, right? And I know there are people who don't probably have the same mindset, but as a generation, I think the majority, at least most of the people that I interact with, and I don't know how it is with you.
Yeah, pretty much the same, of
we
course.
have that mindset of, diversity and inclusion.
Right. But something very interesting that you actually pointed out, especially the Gen Z generation, do not know a time before social media, because they obviously grown up with social media, right? And that also, like you said, because of social media, you're very open about your thoughts. You say what you need to say because there is an outlet for you to put down in words, in pictures and whatnot, which of course I think also has helped Gen Zs obviously start fitting into the corporate culture. There could be certain pushbacks because sometimes the leaders and the stakeholders of different corporates do not come from that generation and do not necessarily see it that way. But in terms of Gen Zs and in terms of well-being, especially at Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, what are the Gen Zs actually bringing to the workplace in terms of well-being? Anuki, if I can start with you.
So, adding on to what I was saying earlier, I think that need for balance and those open conversations with people who are, in this corporate world with us have led to them actually taking initiative and, putting things out there that will actually help us with work-life balance, mental well-being, physical well-being. And if I take Cinnamon, for example, we have You Matter, which is our well-being initiative. And under this You Matter program, we have things like Anagram, which is like group therapy with the people you work with.
Right.
And, that's something that's very unique and has actually helped us in, even day-to-day scenarios where we cooperate a little better.
Okay.
And even things like unconscious bias or, things that are considered very taboo in traditional context. We've sort of been able to put those things out there, and the leadership has really taken it on as not a challenge, but I don't know how to word it. It's like they're open to our ideas, Just because we are younger, it doesn't mean that our ideas don't matter, like what Praveen said.
Of course.
Right.
So I think those conversations have led to those initiatives. And we also have CAP, that's colleague assistance program, where we have an in-house therapist. And, you can block your time with her and you can speak to her about anything. It can be professional, personal, and that guidance is given because we've had those conversations with the people who can do something about it.
Praveen, why, if I'm to basically turn to you, why do you feel that Gen Zs are very open about mental well-being? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, so when we talk about well-being, actually, it's not only about the mental well-being, I would say, because whenever the word comes well-being, we actually think, okay, it's about our mentality, how you should think, and when we are going through hard time, how to get back. But it's actually the mental well-being and at the same time your social well-being also, and at the same time your physical well-being also. So all of these needs to be considered when it comes to the well-being, and as an organization we believe this whole terminology well-being is like properly understood, and at the same time it's being addressed in all the initiatives that we have, like what Anuki said, through Anagram and those mental well-being development programs. It's not only that, like when it comes to the tournaments that we are having, the sports festivals, to everything, we create that environment where the people can get together, maybe play together like as groups. When it comes to the tournaments that we are having, right? Rugby to cricket to whatever it is, swimming to everything. So we consider about the physical well-being of our own teams, our own members, and at the same time the mental well-being. And if you look at this barista also, is a great, I think, example that we can see.
I love it. I can work here all day.
That's exactly what I also feel the very first day I joined, because this actually a place where you can open yourself. So here I don't think we come and talk about how we are achieving our target, quarterly goals, the targets and all.
Right.
We just talk about our day-to-day stuff, and while having a coffee or cappuccino, we just enjoy ourselves. And it's all about the cheerful environment that not only Cinnamon, the whole John Keel's created, because at the end of the day, if we take 24 hours of this whole day, I think 8 hours or most of the time is something that we spend in our corporate life that we are saying. So even though we say there should be two different worlds, lives, corporate life and the personal life, I don't think you can have the perfect or the worst corporate life and the best personal life, never. It will always be, there will be an infusion, and when your corporate life is going down, obviously your personal life will also go the same direction. Therefore, I believe John Keel's and Cinnamon and all our BUs, all our sectors have very nicely identified this term well-being, which is something very much crucial, and we openly talk about, especially when it comes to Gen Zs. They have identified the requirement of Gen Zs, not only Gen Zs now, it comes in different now. We are actually a group of people that represents all the generations. When it comes to John Keel's, from Gen X, Y, Z, Alpha, and you name it, it is in this John Keel's whole group of companies. So all these concepts, all these ideologies of people and how they consider well-being as a part of their life is very nicely captured by John Keel's, and it's being addressed in terms of, just as I said, social well-being, the physical well-being, the mental well-being, and everywhere. So yes, that's the perspective that we have. Yeah.
Let me just ask you quickly from the both of you, because we're almost done with the session for today. You spoke about anagram, you spoke about colleague assistant programs. When this was initially introduced to you, you clearly wouldn't have heard about this before. You did not know what it was before. Were you apprehensive to be a part of it?
I was intrigued, to say the least, but I was open to it.
Right.
And it was something new, and I wanted to try it out because it looked like the company was genuinely taking an interest in us beyond just seeing us as workers or employees.
Right.
They sort of, through these initiatives, I feel they make us feel more human.
Okay.
And more like people. And I think it's not big things like group therapy or even the CAP program, or those big things don't really matter. Sometimes the little things that they do, even things like giving us our birthday off.
Okay.
I don't think any other company has that policy, I don't know. But our birthday, it's like you're on leave.
Right.
Okay. And nobody can bother you on your birthday.
Okay.
So it's just the little things,
Little things matter actually at the end of the day.
I mean, same thing to you, Praveen. I mean, were you intrigued when initiatives like Anagram was actually introduced to you? What was the first thought that went through your mind when either your immediate superior explained that this is something that JKH is getting into? What was the first thing that ran through your mind?
Actually, I was pretty excited and curious to know what's going on there inside. When we're having sometimes the personal sessions are going, it's all about I was like, okay, what is it? Something is happening inside there, which is where I can say totally curious to know what's going on. Not that I'm having any sort of a bad period or anything. I was going through the best time of my life sort of time when I got to know about this. But I still wanted to see and experience and see what's going on. And the first thing that I asked also, okay, so what are we going to do? Because I didn't have any issue to talk about or anything. But still, when I'm coming out, I saw a difference. I realized that I have learned something new, some wow factor that can enlighten your thoughts and refresh the whole day. Because at the end of the day, what I strongly believe is one simple sentence, a word can refresh your whole soul. You might be going through a sort of a hard time, or you must be overwhelmed with the work, but one simple thing can change everything. So I really can remember that sort of excitement that I got when I'm coming out. So it's like that. You don't need to go through, you don't need to have a problem to go through such sort of therapies or these sessions. It's like very nice open conversations which are happening in a very confidential way. I should say that we should give the thank to our HR teams and everybody who like facilitate, because we value the privacy of everybody, because if it needs to be happen in a very private environment, we value that. So we don't go to that area also. We value that privacy, because I might go and just talk about day-to-day life thing and just enjoy my time with the sessions, or some might be going through the flames of the hell and they actually need it. Right? They might need it very desperately. They must be looking for something good. So we actually value that, and that's actually the culture of Cinnamon and John Kills. We value people's privacy and everything. So yeah, when it comes to that session, I would say I was very excited and curious to know. And I believe,
sorry.
I believe it's
after, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I think after we joined all these programs, I know for me, I realized that we were able to form closer bonds and newer bonds with everybody we work with, because these sessions like Anagram, for example, which is like a group therapy session, you're put into a room with people from different departments, and sometimes it's people you've only spoken to on mail, and you see them and you hear their stories, and you sort of see them more as, like I said earlier, humans, and I think those bonds have really
at the town hall
us.
also, because we have these town hall meetings quarterly, or sometimes it can go monthly also, like Halloween sessions or whatever the session that our HR organizes. And I would say those are the like times that we can get together, as we must be actually, just as you said, sometimes we just coordinate through emails only. We just talk and it doesn't have that human touch, right? And when they see us truly and in the real human sense, they understand who we are, which is, and I have actually experienced, then the next email when we are sending, it has that sort of a connection.
It's lighter.
Yeah, of course, because previous it's very strange. Putting something to a stranger, but next time after all these events and all, it's very nice.
It's the same words, but of course the voice is different in your head.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bunch of happy campers, I must say.
Of course.
Well, we're at the end of our episode for today on You Matter with Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, talking about well-being, talking about some fabulous initiatives that Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts are continuously bringing in for everybody who's working under the banner of Cinnamon. Before we do say goodbye, Anuki, Praveen, World Mental Health Day, a huge deal. It's actually become a huge deal the last couple of years or so. Before we go, I would like you to give us your message to individuals out there who are watching this episode right now. Could be even your colleagues who are working here, or friends who are working in different corporates. Your message on World Mental Health Day. What would you like to say, Anuki?
I think my message and wish for all of you or anyone listening in would be to find the courage to truly be yourself and prioritize yourself. I know it's very difficult sometimes to put ourselves first, and I think if you are able to completely be comfortable in your skin and accept yourself for who you are, everything else will fall into place. And it's a tough thing to figure out what your purpose in life is, and really figure out what you want out of life. And if you can't figure that out on your own, there are so many resources and people out there who care about you and love you enough to help you figure that out. And I think everybody listening in, find your purpose, find the courage to be yourself and prioritize yourself.
Praveen, what about you?
Well, just as Anuki said, little continuation, you are unique. And you are like, if there's, I don't know how many people there are on earth, if you want to find out one person who is named as like Praveen, Wickramasinghe, it will only be me. You will not be able to find any other Praveen, just like that. It's just you for the whole earth. So identify who you are, and at the same time, you must be going through very bad time, or you must be having the best time of your life. I would, the message that I really want to say is the mental health, or your comfort zone, your boundary today should not exactly be the same boundary for tomorrow, because you have to push yourself, you have to push your boundaries, widen it, so then only you become more and more matured. Take all the stressful situations, anxieties that you are going through as an opportunity to learn and opportunity to grow your limits. Because the more you push your boundaries and grow yourself, that is where actually this whole well-being come into place. Then whatever it is, you will find the way to get out of it, because you know that your tolerance, your ability to cope up with different situations are like so wide. So then